Hey, everybody. I am here with Justin G. Dyck. He is the director of the awesome new movie, Anything for Jackson. Hello, Justin.
Hello, hello.
And if any of you are here for the first time, I have my own YouTube, rustomire, but most of the time you're going to hear these things on our Find Your Film podcast, and I am one third of that crew. We love to especially highlight independent newer filmmakers, if at all possible. Of course, we run the gamut. So, Justin, anything for Jackson? Uh, I know you've been a bit on you've been kind of on the whirlwind tour the last, what, week or two, say,
Yeah,
maybe?
yeah, we came out on December 3rd, so things sort of started around there.
And you originally hit the festivals a little bit, and then you've got exclusively into Shudder right now, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, yeah. So we premiered at Fantasia Festival out of Montreal. Now it was the virtual version of that festival, but that still went very well for us. And then shortly after that, we got picked up on Shudder, and then we played Night Stream in the U.S., which is a collaboration of five fantastic film festivals, all of which I wish I could have gone to in person. And then yeah, we premiered here in Canada as part of Blood in the Snow Film Festival, which is on Super Channel Fuse here in Canada. And Super Channel now holds, they're now showing the film here in Canada on demand and through normal TV, and then yeah, we hit Shudder on December 3rd in the U.S., UK, Ireland, Australia, New Zealand.
Excellent. And I'm a big proponent of Shudder. I think as far as streaming services go, it's really excellent, and I think people underestimate it. They curate amazing, interesting horror movies, but also just fantastic international cinema and just daring cinema in general. So
Hmm.
when I see something pop up there, I usually want to go check it out and see what it's all about. So that being said, I'm going to warn people up front. There may be things that dip into slightly spoilerific territory. So I would say go to Shudder and watch the movie. I almost wish you didn't even have the taglines and stuff for the movie. I like even the things that happen in the first 10 minutes, I like to discover organically,
I
because
wish we could do it that way,
I know, but you got to suck
but you
people
got to
in.
make people watch it. Yeah.
That's right. But definitely, even knowing all the things, I think it's a ton of fun. And I will start off by saying I'm working on my top 25 of the year. And this is not horror movies. This is just all my top 25 for 2020. And you guys are solidly in there. I don't think there's anything that's going to knock you out. So
Well,
just like,
fantastic. Thank you.
I would say maybe a third are horror. I mean, I love horror, but I love
All right.
all kinds of stuff. So you guys are awesome. And that we're going to get into some of the things that make this movie awesome. And I'm going to ask you a few questions, but out of the front end of it. So I watch a new movie, I review it, I'm interested, check out the director, see what you've done, right? And I see you've done a lot of family stuff. And that immediately struck me, like Christmas and family. And I saw this movie and it kind of stuck out like a sore evil thumb. And I
Yeah.
thought, what is the story of that? That's my first question.
Well, when I got my first family movie, I was shooting music videos, corporate videos, working as a cinematographer. I was filming. I went to San Francisco once for 3 days to interview doctors about erectile dysfunction. So when someone came to me and said, "Hey, do you want to make a movie about a kid who plays soccer with a monkey?" I said, "Of course I do." So yeah, as I was seeking out my first horror film, that one kind of fell into my lap, and it went well. And that got us another family movie, which got us another, which led into the Christmas movie space, which is so rampant these days. Um, and yeah, so I just sort of stumbled into this fantastic day job where I get to hone my craft and work with actors and work with crews. And yeah, I got to churn out a lot of those movies. But whether I'm making movies or working in a factory somewhere, it was just hard slugging while I try to get my first indie film off the ground. So eventually I got there and we made Anything for Jackson.
Excellent. So to get a little bit into anything for Jackson, right out of the gate, I was struck by a couple things. Once again, we're not going to get too much detail, but you have a married couple in their 60s ish, I'd say. And right out of the gate, something's a little off. and an occurrence happens early on that really lets you know something's off, and we're off to the races, and we find out what they're up to. Now, I guess I'm not really spoiling much because you've got upside down cross in the, the artwork and so on and so forth. So there's something either satanic or evil or so on going on here. And I don't know if you thought of it this way, but I'm going to tell you something that struck me, and you tell me if this was part of the intention. So, first of all, you have the wonderful Julian Richings as Henry. Awesome get on that. He is amazing. I'm sure you agree.
Yes, I wholeheartedy agree.
And then you've got Sheila McCarthy. She's great, been in a million things, and she's Audrey, his wife. And then the couple that stood out to me too was Josh Cruddas. Is it Cruddas or Cruddas?
I think it's Cruddas, but I might be doing it wrong, and he's too polite to correct me.
Yeah, Ian. And then you've got Constantina Mantelos.
Yeah.
And she's Shannon, and she's kind of the main other third leg of the situation here.
She is, yeah.
But one thing I was struck right off the bat is that this almost struck me as a story version of, people that are above 55. I mean, I'm in my 50s. People in their 50s and 60s. And so all of a sudden technology and things like that can be a little elusive. They can really embrace them and want to be excited by them, but not quite sure how to tackle them. And it struck me that they are kind of the same way, but with Satanism.
That's a really good way of putting it. They certainly didn't come up with this, grow up doing this. They had a problem when they somehow stumbled into, maybe the solution to our problem is Satanism. Maybe that's how a lot of people get into different religions. They see an answer there. So they started studying, and they joined that church to try to get some answers. Now, what they practice in this movie and where the book comes from, we're not following, the church is definitely a Satanist church, but they are not necessarily following, Satanist practices. The lore we came up with for this movie was that these entities, creatures, demons, ghosts, whatever you want to call them, have existed throughout history, and any civilization who's seen them or seen a sign of them has come up with their own story around them. So maybe they are from Greek mythology, or maybe they're from ancient Egypt, but every time one of these things showed its faces, that civilization came up with a story. So there's pages from all different books, all different parts of history. And some people said, this is what you have to say in Latin in order for this to happen, or this is what you have to say in, any variation, any different language and whatnot. Stumbling my words here. So it was the magic, if you will, or the demons come from just the reality that is within this film.
Right.
But Satanism is sort of how they learned about it and got into it, and met Ian, of course.
That makes sense. So you kind of got this I don't know, age-old supernatural entity or forces going on, but different religions are tapping into them and interpreting them.
Yeah.
So, question. So, obviously, that's a pretty big concept, and people have to take pretty big leaps to accept it or not in the movie. But one other thing that is really striking about this movie is that you approach the characters and the situations in an extremely grounded manner, especially your two main characters. So can I talk a little bit about how you approached writing that and how that was either intentional to help elevate the crazy stuff happening later on?
It was 100% intentional. We had to ground it so you could buy into it. And I think that just comes from, those are the kind of movies I like. There's movies where the audience buys in before they walk in, Star Wars, you're like, okay, accept this and now go have fun. But I love it when it feels like it's, friends or people next door. And then they convince you that this, other more science fiction, I guess, element can in fact happen. And that becomes a little bit scarier too, because you relate a little bit more than if you're flying through space or, journeying to the center of the earth or whatever. So that was sort of just came from my taste in movies. And yeah, it was written that way as well because
Mhm.
the writer of this film, Keith Cooper, he and I, came up with the idea, but then he went off and made the script what it is. So obviously, tons of credit goes to that for the fantastic tone we were able to hit.
Yes. And that leads to another part of kind of the, like you're talking about how they're kind of grounded in dealing with this kind of supernatural thing and how those two kind of can play off each other. So I've heard a couple people talk about how you kind of see what happens with maybe Henry especially kind of being unraveling. They say things like that. And to me, it almost seems more like those kind of movies where, or stories where you have, say, someone commits a crime and then they have to try to clean up their mess. And each
Mhm.
time they try to clean up their mess, they make a bigger mess.
Absolutely, it's ordinary people in extraordinary situations, and yeah, I think if you or I stumbled into summoning a demon, we'd probably make some mistakes. So that's that we wanted to demonstrate that. But also, a lot of people have pointed out that the film is funny, which I knew we were adding some levity to it, but we certainly weren't setting out to make jokes and set up punchlines and things. We just wanted to base it in reality in the same way you'll tell a joke at a funeral, or you'll just quip in extreme situations. We wanted to demonstrate that as well, that if you're going to kidnap somebody, you're going to be spending a lot of time with them, so you might as well be polite.
Well, and I think a lot of the humor, to my eye, is situational, and it's because of what we're talking about. So it's kind of that, like, hey, if I were a real person stuck in this situation, how would I deal with it? And they don't deal with it in like a super smooth or understanding way. They sometimes do things that are like, I don't know what to do with this situation now. Okay, I've got this dead person now. What am I going to do with this dead person? Those kind of messy solutions, I think, cause some dark humor or gallows humor. And I'm
Absolutely.
guessing we might both be in that campus enjoying that kind of thing. So
Very much so, yeah.
another question I have for you. So I noticed several places, and especially with the police investigation side of things, but I noticed in several places you have some really what could be very trope, very kind of patterned situations that you see in a lot of movies, and you seem to make a decided um, point to upend those and to kind of revert those. I'm assuming that was a big part of kind of your approach when you came into it.
Very much so. From the very beginning, it's an exorcism movie, and they've been done a lot. You're restricted to a very small world, so we had to find a way to turn everything on its head. So that was the very first conversation where the idea came from. Was what's the opposite of an exorcism movie? Well, someone's going to want to put the spirit into a body instead
Right.
of getting it out. So we then that's where it came from, and everything from the police investigation to at the 2/3 into the movie, when a character you've already met comes and becomes a bigger part, it's usually a priest. Well, what's the opposite of a priest? Right. So much of this movie was taking expectations and flipping them, because that's something that I love so much in films myself. So
But unlike a priest that might be like trained for a billion years to do this, and that's their he's sort of like I kept thinking he was kind of like the guy from King of Comedy or something. Like he's in his mom's basement and he's practicing so he can be really. And he's getting his moment on stage. And
yeah.
I kind of loved how that rolled out too.
Yeah, 100%. Well, if you need an expert, like, they're few and far between. If you have an expert on ancient satanic wisdom, they're hard to find.
Another question for you. Your thoughts on suspense, because I definitely noticed. So obviously you don't have a huge budget. You have some special effects, of course, and they're good, and you kind of use them sparingly to get the best out of them. But also there's some moments that you really do some stuff with suspense that I thought you don't necessarily see in a movie like this. I'm especially thinking of a nanny cam sequence that occurs where someone
Mhm.
comes to a door. What were your thoughts on suspense and building suspense into what could be a jump scare horror movie?
Um, I don't know. I love thrillers. So suspense for me is just it's such an exciting part of watching a movie. So and it was definitely a challenge, and I love taking the challenge on and see if we can pull it off. And um typically you would be hoping that the kidnapped victim was going to be saved, but now we're making the suspense. Will they catch Henry and Audrey? So we wanted to see if we could pull that off and make it suspenseful, and hopefully we did. And it's just a very exciting part for me. In terms of jump scares, it's funny. We've heard both. We've had I've seen some critics who didn't like it, who said it's just full of jump scares. And then we have people who loved it and said, thank goodness they didn't put any jump scares in here. So I don't know. Some people are jumpier than others, I guess.
I mean, I've seen a million horror movies, and I know a jump scare, and I wouldn't say that you might have a few startling moments, but they're not jump scares. And even then,
Yeah.
we talk about the one, I'm not going to say what it is, but there's a thing you do to revert what you expect is going to happen to the police officer. And you could say that's kind of a jarring moment, I guess you'd say, but then you play with that jarring moment in a way that is amazing, I must say. The way that jarring moment comes back again and again and again.
A surprise is different than a jump scare.
Yes.
And you want a movie full of surprises, I think. At least I do. So that's what we set out to do.
That sounds like an essential misunderstanding, or someone who doesn't get horror movies, or maybe that's not their thing. So they don't know the difference. It's like, I don't know. So a couple of questions. So you talked about you like thrillers, and some that you've kind of given an indication of some of the things you kind of like. So a couple of things before we leave is kind of more general movie stuff.
Sure.
One is on our podcast every week, which we're about to record after we do this. I do a little segment called "What's in the Box." You know where that probably comes from.
Yeah.
And basically, every week, each of us brings like 2 or 3 recommendations, and I use one of my recommendations from a random choice from this box. So listeners will say something that they wish people talked about more, or an underseen movie, or something they love they never hear talked about. Do you have any movie that's kind of fits that category? And I'll put it in the box for future.
Oh, something that's sort of a little bit under the radar.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna have a hard time picking something that you haven't seen, I think.
That's okay. I also put in there, if I haven't seen it for long enough that I kind of forgot it a little bit, I'm okay with watching it again. So.
Okay. Let's see, something that's under the radar. Well, I've got one that I haven't seen yet. I plan on watching it tonight, actually. But it's made by a friend of mine, so I think I can safely plug it. And it's a new Christmas movie on FX, and it's called Letters to Satan Claus.
Letters to Satan. No, wait. Can I find this somewhere though? Can I actually watch it?
It's on FX. Yeah, it premiered a couple nights ago.
I definitely haven't seen that, so I'm writing that down.
Yeah. So it's they qualify it as a Hallmark movie. So it's your typical cheesy Christmas film, and all of a sudden, I think someone tries to write a letter to Santa, but they switch the letters up, and they get the wrong person.
Oh my gosh.
So I've she's been sending me lots of behind the scenes photos. It looks like a good time. It looks absolutely hilarious. So
awesome.
That one's brand new. So hopefully that's one you haven't seen yet.
I have not seen it, and I will put it in the box. So I will only have you to blame if no. So one other thing for you. So this is going to be easier because you don't have to like rack your brain on anything. So just a movie or two or whatever that in your life has just always been, you've loved it always. It's super impactful to you. It impacted you early on and made you love movies, or whatever that might be.
Oh man, so many.
Yeah.
You could go on for hours. I
could too.
I did another podcast where they asked me to come with a movie that scared me as a child, and I chose The Princess Bride. And that was one that, my grandparents had 2 VHS tapes of movies, and they had The Princess Bride and Crocodile Dundee. So I watched them just on repeat. And Princess Bride scared me, but I still had to keep going back to watch over and over again. And I remember having, lots of dreams of the old woman yelling "boo" as she walks up the aisle. And so, that was huge for me. But then, I don't know, they're endless. I remember, the mid 90s.
Hmm.
I was I'm an 81 baby. So as as Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez and Kevin Smith are all coming up, I'm a 14-year-old super impressionable kid, and I'm just like, it's boggling my mind that these people are making movies for no money. That was the first time I thought,
Yeah.
oh, people, you can make movies. It's not just like these aliens from Hollywood that have billions of dollars in their pockets. Like, normal people can make movies. So that whole revolution was massive for me.
Yeah, all those
Um,
guys coming through at the same time and
yeah,
popping up.
yeah, and then getting the blue, or not the Blu-rays, getting the DVDs and watching all the special features and Robert Rodriguez's behind the scenes stuff, and um, his 15-minute film schools and all those things. So uh, yeah, I don't know. I could go on.
No, that's cool. That's great. Yeah, we love that too. I think that you're right exactly too, that you kind of had that emergence. And I think we kind of having a second one of those. So you kind of think about like there's that period from late thousands till now where all of a sudden now on less of a budget, you can create a much higher product and really be independent. I mean, once again, I read, I don't know if it's true, but you were pretty micro budget on this, weren't you?
We were, yeah, yeah. This was a very small budget. We called in lots of favors and used anything we had access to.
You definitely made it stand out because I mean
Oh,
obviously you did the right I mean I'm assuming your experience on your day job I guess or whatever you might want to call it
yeah, yeah.
really probably helped you streamline the process too.
For sure. Yeah. It was, I realized I wasn't as nervous as I should have been on my first day on set, because it just felt like another day on set. It was, a new crew, a new cast, and obviously a very different script, but it still, I knew what to expect going in. And I knew that, if I got pinned into a corner, I could get myself out of it. So there, a lot of confidence comes from practice, I guess. And whether you're making a corporate video or a wedding video or a movie, it's all practice, and you know how to get yourself out of tough situations. So repetition, I guess, and doing reps
Awesome.
is a good way to get ready for that sort of situation.
Very, very good. So I'm gonna let you go soon because I know your time is precious. You've been doing a lot of these. Is there anything you want to let us know that's coming up or a future project or anything when we should look for something else from you?
I wish there was. We have a lot of opportunities, I'll say.
Good.
And it's always, this is that lame, vague answer nobody wants to hear. But
No, that's fine.
we've got a few scripts, a few ideas, and a lot more interest now than we did before anything for Jackson came out. So
That's
yes,
awesome.
stuff is coming. I'll announce it. I'm forcing myself to get more involved with social media. So Instagram or Twitter, you can follow me just at Justin G. Dyck,
Hmm.
and I'll be making any announcements there. And I'll also be posting a lot of reviews and podcasts like this one.
That's awesome.
So you'll get very annoyed with me
No,
posting
no,
about the
not.
same movie and over and over again.
No, we're all over there too. That's great. I mean, that's what you got to do, and you've got a great product. I think the word of mouth is going to spread really quick, and I know that the people who are into the genre movies are already embracing it, and but I think that as people that don't necessarily, gravitate toward a horror movie, it might be a harder hurdle to get them into the doorway. But once they get 15 or 20 minutes in and they watch the acting and the writing and they see the uniqueness of your vision, I think you're going to gather a huge, at least a huge cult following, if not.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I hope so. So far, the people watching have been, so generous and kind, and they're taking their time to review it on Letterboxd or post or rate it on IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes, and all that stuff helps so much. So it's
Awesome.
really nice that everyone's taking their own personal time after watching the movie to do that for us. So it's greatly appreciated.
Well, thank you so much, Justin. It's a great movie. I hope more people continue to discover it. I will definitely be telling anyone I know to check it out. And thank you again for your time.
Thank you so much, Bruce. This has been fun.
Yeah, take care.
You
All
too.
right, bye.
All right. Bye bye.